decency and modesty.
Oh, hallelujah.
Where's that other fella that was trying to piss me off with that sub-gum face? Kofi.
That was the devil.
That guy, man, I can't stand them guys. The devil, you say, huh?
Uh-huh.
Oh, shit.
Oh, you're dead. You're in hell, and I'm a demon.
Oh, shit.
And there is no Bob, you know?
Oh!
There is a Bob.
If this was indeed an extraterrestrial spacecraft with living occupants, it must have been very disconcerting for them to cross millions of miles of space only to be hit on the head with rotten oranges. The dramatic advent of such fascinating objects as those which were first called flying saucers attracted the inevitable attention of those individuals who let their imaginations run away with their veracity. By 1950, some of these characters were beginning to spin their stories of fantastic conversations with alleged space people. Some of them expanded the stories to include alleged rides in the UFOs.
Suddenly everything went black, and I realized that I'd been cut off and shut off in a little tiny room where nobody was listening to me, and I was talking to this hot little plush felt red rubber tip microphone, and not hearing a thing and seeing only little tiny lights, and wondering why I was strapped to this chair and put into the studio that seemed to be rotating very rapidly with lights flashing off rhythmically, and there was a small man with a swollen head and hideously deformed eyes sitting behind the console pushing the buttons while pencils of light and energy flashed across my body, and I wondered why I was there and what did they want of me, and I couldn't figure out why I was sitting there. And they didn't say anything. They just kept flashing those lights at me and pumping those strange chemicals into me. And the man with the funny head, the leader, the man with a strange grin and the pipe.
Well, I just want to know, do you want to be in the church or out of the church? And where's your wallet?
DC-9 pushed the button.
Yeah. I didn't know that I'd been snatched up, and it wasn't really a dream until I saw these sacred nasal positions. And suddenly it all came back to me. And I realized that they'd stolen 4.5 hours out of my life when they put me in that tiny room and plugged all those wires into me and made me talk and talk.
Only an hour and a half tonight, mister,
and talk,
because you only paid for an hour and a half.
Man, that was great. That was so funny or inspiring. I mean, it wasn't funny. It was deep. Well, it wasn't deep. It was pretty stupid. But no, I mean, wait. Whatever it was we just heard, it was great.
Right.
And I'm sure I'll insert a credit in some clumsy way.
And even contact information for some of the ones that really, really wanted really bad, because that was the worst, best slash. What did we just hear? I forgot again.
I don't know, but what was this in my
it's a
my
place.
News feed? Oh my God! Yeah, the news. Oh, here's something about. We were talking about dogs on marijuana. Here's an article about octopuses on ecstasy. It's not octopi; it's octopuses. Does the drug ecstasy make octopuses more friendly? That, strangely enough, is a question to which scientists now have an answer. The 8 tentacled invertebrates are notoriously smart. They can navigate mazes and unscrew jars to get food, and are also deeply antisocial. And this neurosurgeon, Guldolen, discovered that octopuses and people share the genes for a protein targeted by MDMA, the substance in ecstasy. And they dosed an octopus in a tank. Let's see. They put an octopus in a tank with 3 connected chambers, one empty, one containing a Star Wars figurine, didn't say which one, and one with another octopus. Without the MDMA, the cephalopod focused its attention on the action figure. But after taking low doses, the octopus spent much more time with its fellow invertebrate, even hugging its cage. Other octopuses displayed similar behavior. Some even became playful, doing what researchers described as a water ballet. So even though octopuses look like they come from outer space, says this strangely named person. She says they're actually not that different from us.
Yeah, but I guess all creatures are both great and small, or at least somewhere like in Tenderloin District is a neo-Nazi combination over there back in Nashville and Fried Tuesdays. You remember all those guys?
What do you mean, remember? They're destroying our national parks even as we speak right now.
Yeah, like Smokey the Fart and the Angel Buffalo Wings and all these other people. They think because the government lets them live on that land and distribute furniture and all that stuff like that, that means somehow they have to stay there.
Apparently, the climate change in the form of higher temperatures has been hitting our wilderness areas more sharply than other places. If carbon emissions aren't curbed, it would kill most of the yucca palms that give Joshua Tree National Park its name, melt Glacier National Park's most iconic features, and cause raging wildfires that could turn Yellowstone's conifer forests into grassland. Parks are very vulnerable because where they're located, and in the arid Southwest and Alaska and so forth. Well, I keep trying to warn people about this impending doom, but nobody ever listens to the old prophet of doom until it's too late, as Nenslow, the old prophet of doom, pointed out.
Well, at least when you're a prophet of doom, you get a couple bucks a week, a spanky badge, a little meal ticket you can use once or twice a week.
No, you're talking about prophets of slack. Prophets of doom, nobody wants to hear it.
Well, I thought they were making more money on the side lately.
Yeah, in fact, we ought to get back on the slack thing. Let's forget this doom. Forget the fact that all the gorillas are going to be dead in about 25, 30 years, and the rhinos. They just legalized. China just legalized rhino horn.
Yeah,
as a medicine. When I was at the Seattle airport, I walked by a poster that almost made me burst into tears. It was a rhino looking at you from a poster saying, "I am not your medicine." I just wanted to cry. And you know what, Dave? I'm turning into just an old softy. I'm just a rough, tough cream puff.
Well, if that's the way you see him, that's the way you got to scroll down, Get right in there, right in the thick of everything, and just come out victorious. That's all I can wish you well, Stan, for just that brief moment, because I think you're a man of tremendous courage. Your panache, that's another word I learned the other day. I can't remember exactly what it means, but vigorosity, vim and vigor, coalescence.
Well, thanks for the reach around, Dave. Hey, if you die tomorrow, hey, I love you, man.
Yeah, if I die tomorrow, that doesn't mean I love you, but it's something.
See, there I'm crying again. Hey, it says here, your kids hate your smartphone addiction. The average American now spends 5 hours a day on a mobile device, and kids really resent it.
I like that in these piece.
Yeah, I hate my mom's phone. I wish she never had one. The more parents use their phones, the more their preschool children whined, sulked, or became irritable, easily frustrated, or hyperactive, even if phone use was well within normal level. Even babies became uncomfortable when they saw their parents' distracted phone face. But see now, once they're out of preschool, once they're in elementary school, they got phone face themselves. They'd rather spend 18 hours of screen time every day. If they're anything like my grandkids.
Yeah, but
my daughter doesn't let the boys do that, but they would if she did. They just stare, and they wouldn't even play video games. They'd be watching videos of other kids play video games. They're not city kids. They're not TV kids. They're Matrix kids.
I know it's horrible.
No, it's just the way it is, man.
Well, it throws you back a little bit. I remember walking into a room with small youngsters one time, and they were just as loud as small youngsters are, and give you quite a jolt, because you don't usually think of people that all, like say 20 people all talking at the same high volume, even though it's like tiny little teeny little human voices and so forth. And I came back within 5 minutes later, and everybody was staring at a different application, and each one of them was making them engage in a certain different way than they were before. And I didn't like the palindrome. I mean, as a place to hang my hat or my foreskin or anything else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that put a strange image in my head, Dave. Hanging your foreskin and your hat.
Yeah, it's like somebody wearing a turban or something.
Oh my God, I just realized I don't have my hat on. That's terrible. Or my foreskin. I mean, it's on, but it's not, where it's not...
They've changed places. And this is going on around the world, where they're exchanging places, people's foreskins appearing on their foreheads.
Right.
And they go to the police, they go to the proper authorities, for what I don't know, but they go to the proper ones, file complaints, saying, no, this doesn't look too good for my Tuesday supper next week with the Luncheon Ladies Club, or anything like that, especially since they're all a bunch of resolute Republicans. Sorry. And so they reach as far as they can out into the half-moon blissful nature of the entire the democracy that we live in. And
we used to live in.
You used to live in, and expect to make a difference.
Yeah, because America has been made great again. Half of America can't vote anymore, so they don't have to worry about all that tricky stuff.
It's like ancient Rome. If you're a member of the imperial family 5,000 miles away, you can get all these favorites and have people carry you around in chairs and stuff.
Those were the days.
Those were the days. But if you don't, they could feed you to the lions or the baboons or any other,
The baboons were a bad way to go. A real bad. Lions are fairly quick. Baboons are a toy.
Lady shot a giraffe. Man, that was sick. And I guess she was some kind of religious figure or she thought she was important, and used to wear cool clothes, and she was trying to show like parts of her body and stuff. Then she killed a giraffe, despite everybody's getting mad at her and stuff, as they should. Why would you want to kill a giraffe? Anyway, she posed with it
to prove that you're rich enough to go there and do that.
Yeah,
that's why.
I mean,
that's really the only reason.
And looking at her, the smile on her face, like when she held up the head of the trophy, made me think there's a big difference between a lot of people on this planet. We're not all floating to the same meister gear,
Well, I have no objection to hunting. That's an important skill that.
Put meat on the table.
It's a good thing somebody has, and there are animals that really need to be hunted, like those deer in Cleveland Heights, Ohio, in the middle of the city, that live in vacant lots and are starving all the time. They need to be thinned out, but how are you going to do it? It's illegal to even discharge a firearm in the whole state, practically, I think. Now,
in comparison to Texas, yeah.
Yeah, but there's I had dinner with a bunch of deer hunters. Just last
carry
week.
law in Texas, I guess. I don't know.
The what?
There's a must carry law.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You have to be packing. I'm worried about getting caught not. So I keep putting it off. I'm just going to buy a Taurus Judge. See, you can use that to blow away mentally ill subgeniuses who invade your space, or you can switch it to rat shot and dispatch rattlesnakes and such.
Yeah,
that's really where I'm going to have it set most of the time, because I think we already did most of the mentally ill subgeniuses.
So do you still wear those pink high heel pumps to attract those mini snakes that you attack when you're trying to show them the guns?
Yeah, I do. I got a brand new pair. In fact, they're really good.
Yeah.
They attract them, but they're bite proof, unless it's a really big snake. And of course, if it's a 30-foot python, you're out of luck because it ain't the bite that's going to kill you. It's the hug.
Yeah.
But anyway, I had dinner with the deer hunters that hunt deer on Stang Ranch during the season, and I got a bad cough and cold. So if you hear my voice sounding broken, that's why. I've been coughing, Dave. Coughing, I tell you. Yeah. Coughing cockroaches out until I feel like one.
Well, have you ever read any of his other works, like The Trial or any of those other?
Yeah. The Trial by Franz Kafka. You know, Orson Welles made a movie of that, and it's one of my favorite movies, and it was the favorite movie of the writer Robert Anton Wilson.
Well, I'll be a Springdale Wallaby.
And if you ever saw my movie, Let's Visit the World of the Future, and The Trial at the same time, you'd go, oh, Stan copped some stuff. Stan copped some lighting gimmicks and shot compositions, and it's sort of somewhat of a mood. It's a real interesting movie. The Trial with Psycho Man, Tony Perkins as the Kafka-esque idiot.
And then Janet Leigh's like the head vampire woman.
Well, I know
like
that's
throws that little extra V8 juice in the can, you know.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of old people, we need to cut to something else to prove we're not old for a whole hour. Okay, so hey, get a load of this.
Now I ask you, sir or lady. Thank you. What brand did Jesus smoke? Hey, you didn't know that one either. Did your preacher know that Jesus smoked Chesterfield? Did you know that smoking was a sin unless it's Chesterfield? Now Jesus smoked them, yet they did not exist 2,000 years ago. We must accept this on faith. There's no logical explanation for it. There's no logical explanation for it. You don't use your mind to think about your religion. So you must ask yourself, do you have slack? Do you have slack? Now Bob teaches the full gospel of slack, the uncut, X-rated version of slack. You have your book of the SubGenius. Would you please turn to Prescriptures 7:15? The question posed is, how do you know you have slack? How do you know? How do you know your eternal check balance is ready to meet Bob?
Now, once the Yucatisma has been evocated, and once the energies have started to flow through you, you've become to the centering of the sea. Not the being, but the sea. And the visualization of the true work. The one thing you want to do so badly. And now with the injection of this edge force that you have received through the regulation of the cash flow and the evoking of the Yucatismic forces and the true aesthetic beauty, life, death force of the universe is coursing through your veins, we now look at our work and go through it, plan every step of it, every facet of it, until there it is, crafted, polished, completely, perfectly assembled, a great jewel of something, of some great expression that we've wanted for so long. And we...
On June the 2nd, 1987. It was in the year of 1982 that spacemen first discovered the Great Galactic Barrier. In the past 10 years, rocket travel to the moon and the nearer planets had become commonplace. And yet, the explorers refused to admit defeat. It was on June the 2nd, 1987, that the rocket Star Cloud made ready for takeoff.
The SubGenius Hour of Slack.
Don't bother me for a while. I'm busy. Stupid idiot. We'll have to reintegrate the whole works. Prepare to blast off. 4, 3, 0. Fire up number 1 cyclotron.
Number 1 ready.
Fire up number 2.
Number 2 ready.
I think that's rubbish. What do you think?
Oh, I think it's terrible. At least it won't be boring.
I must admit that I am here again. It's supposed to, above human, the kingdom of God. Now you say, you keep saying us. Who do you think you are? The kingdom of heaven. We're not saying that planet Earth is coming to an end. The most urgent thing that is on our mind, and you'll have to decide that for yourself. You know, intelligent human beings, what we suspect is the most urgent of those who will title this tape. Those who are trying to prepare themselves for entry. Not important to me, even though it's up to you whether you believe that or not. That's with us. Into the evolutionary level. We're going to talk to you now, playing on the minds, trying to say it in today's language. That's a pretty major statement. Rid themselves of human behavior. It's pretty bold in terms of religion. Will connect with us. Not that it necessarily does. That can seem unattractive to you if you're really into flesh bodies. To evacuate. Looks like giant insects or slimy reptilians or eyes so big that you could fall into them. Eat things that you have to pull off the bone, or then certainly teeth are not needed.
And that was the Rudy Schwartz Project. I've almost used up all the music from that particular album, Postal Code of Ham. And now let's just cut this bunch of random stuff.
By the way, you've seen Trigger's stuffed self, haven't you, in the Roy Rogers?
What is the Trigger sign, by the way?
What you never did? Oh, well, he had the taxidermist prepare his beloved mount, Trigger. You knew that, right? Roy Rogers and Trigger.
The first goat that my family had its head is mounted on the wall.
Oh, yes. He was a malfeaser. His head is mounted on the wall the way the heads of criminals were impaled on pikes outside the Tower of London.
He turned bad. He was a billy goat.
Your goat turned bad?
He was a bad
Big
goat.
Red.
Bad stuff.
Big Red, he was called.
Somehow the sickness got into him.
That sounds really obscene.
Yes,
no, he honestly did. He turned bad, and he became a rapist.
He was evil.
Big Red,
evil.
And his head ended up on the wall. There's a goat.
Let it be a lesson to us all.
Some kind of sheep, a bear, a deer, and a jackalope.
An ejackalope.
Well, not an ejackalope. Hey, that's what I need for my museum. The ejackalope.
Look what now has
We're going hunting now.
Here's what it'll be. It's like there's the jackalope head, which is not very big, but it is really a jackalope head with little antlers.
You're not going to modify your father's jackalope.
We won't change that. We'll just add another little mount about an inch underneath with a little ejaculope dick sticking out.
I'll let you borrow my raccoon bone, my raccoon penis bone. That can be your jackalope.
We
it's
have
called
one.
A bacula.
Oh, actually, not a raccoon. My dad had a collection of, what are those called?
Penis bones?
Yeah, but they have this name.
Baculae.
He has a bear. Penis bone. They're like swizzle sticks, and he does have a raccoon.
Swizzle
Raccoon's
sticks.
about this long. The bear's about this long, but get this: the walrus is this long. And it's got scrimshaw on it.
Scrimshaw?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He bought a walrus dick bone with scrimshaw on it.
With the tail of Barnacle Bill the Sailor inscribed thereon.
This might be a good place to do a transition. My father...
Yes, let's change into a vampire or whatever.
It is cold up there.
I've heard that it was cold up there.
This is an indelicate story, but it does demonstrate how cold it gets. They have Quonset huts just about everywhere. That's the main thing because they're easy to keep warm. And the temperature inside is about 60. They don't let it get up more than that because it's so dry inside, it feels like you're suffocating. If the temperature got up around 70, with that dryness, it just feels terrible. Your lips get all cracked. And I said, I've got to go to the restroom, boys. Where is it? And this old sourdough said, well, he said, it's kind of foggy out there. He said, follow that yellow nylon rope. And they have ropes. There's a green one that goes to the dining hall and a red one that goes over to the offices and so forth. And then there's a yellow one that goes to this latrine. And he said, follow the yellow nylon rope. And so I went and used it. Coming back on the path, it was snow, kind of tramped down. It looked like a crystal laying there. What are you smelling?
I know what those crystals are.
I know, okay.
So I lived in South Dakota.
About that big around. And I picked it up and I got inside. It had frost on it. It kind of knocked the frost. It was rough. Knocked with frosting, you could look at it and tell it was kind of crystalline. And I threw it down on the table, bonk, lonk, and it rolled along. I said, what kind of mineral is that, guys? And they took one look at it, and every one of them got it, walked to the other end of the Quonset hut. And I couldn't understand what it was, and I kind of picked it up and looked at it and brushed some of that frost off of it, and you could see it kind of glimmer and shimmer inside. I knew it was a crystal. And finally, when it thawed out completely, it disappeared.
And it's probably smelled bad, right?
I don't know. It was too cold.
Frozen poop.
That's right. That's how I knew. As soon as I heard that it was green crystal, it's like, yep, up in South Dakota, in the dead of winter, you'll find those around. You don't want to bring them inside. It takes about a minute, and suddenly it all goes at once. And, geez, usually it's dogs or...
It could be about anything. It could be just about anything.
Yeah.
But it's cold when you get down to that.
Cold. Yep, that was Pappy. A little bit leftover stuff from his description of his time with the Eskimos, and that's just a joke. Before that, we heard Dr. Hal and me, and I forget who else, talking about the mounted ejaculope, which I'm actually looking at right now. So you see, that's real. And now, PR News.
From PR News in Washington, I'm singer Frank Arethlander, and I'm failing to register as a foreign singer such as Jesse Clinton and Bill Jackson for the funeral services he did on behalf of Ukrainian singers such as former President Samuel Patton while working for singers tied to Paul Manafort. Manafort is set to go on trial next month on related charges of failing to sing for the Trump administration on a renegotiated North American Free Foreign Singer Agreement.
Among the obstacles, Canada wants PR News Washington.
Members didn't make much progress, and it's unclear when they'll be back. The Dow is 23, 26, 10, 30, 80, 18.
Democrats tries to racially gerrymander to dilute PR's power.
Under the rules for the hunt, fewer than 24 federal judges would have been allowed to be killed. California fire officials say you're listening to the deadly PR News from Washington.
If that was the end of that show, that means this is the beginning of this show. Or not the beginning, but we're probably kind of appearing after a bunch of cuts. And boy, those cuts were great. That was some great SubGenius, old-timey stuff we just heard from all those things I said. Yeah. So, and we're back.
Thinking the same different thoughts we never thought before, taking you to the edge of responsibility when it comes to your reasonable logic. Do you want to know what's really going on? Or do you just want to sit there in your contrived evil tent of self-satisfaction and cold, jammy glue and expect nothing to come walking out of the woods for you?
I think I'll take that later choice. I like that later choice. I'll take the red
pumpkin
pill.
or pear. Well, I'm going to move for a pear, not a pumpkin. They're both vegetables. I know in the same hermeneutic Glatzovic's tradition, but doesn't mean they're related. I mean, pumpkin pie, you could have pear pie, but a pear and a pumpkin are vastly different. Right?
Yeah, like a turd and a duckin.
Yeah, like a turd and a duck egg.
No, a duckin, It's like that dish. It's just got such an unappetizing name. I don't think I ever want to try it. Then there's a really long name of like when you cook a whale that's stuffed with an elephant, that's stuffed with a horse, that's stuffed with a dog, that's stuffed with a turkey, that's stuffed with a chicken, that's stuffed with a hummingbird, that's stuffed with a spider that wriggled and jiggled and tickled inside her. And of course she died.
Right. You have to remember that part because that was after the. Remember the intro about Benny Hoodwards and Eugene Starglick and the whole swing orchestra. Those guys were so great back in the old days before I was at least born. I wasn't quite in the universe yet, but I was hoping someday I could get a chance to go to planet Earth, spread goodwill among men and women, mostly between squirrels and other small nutcrackers.
You mean the original planet Earth?
The original one, not the Martian one later either. I know we're all cousins, distant or foreign, one way or another, but I'm talking about, some people could really call the planet Earth their home. And we're just so rudely thrown out by Napoleon the Bonaparte.
Onan spoke of this. Onan spoke at length in the past and recently. He has had more to say about it, as we hear here. And now a disclaimer written by Onan Canabite, but it applies universally. Friends, members of the press are here tonight. I didn't bar them at the door because the Church of the SubGenius has nothing to hide. That said, there are certain false rumors and misguided opinions about our faith that I need to dispel. The SubGenius Foundation is not responsible for men or women of legal age who entirely of their own free will listen to our podcast 24 hours a day for months on end. And should these dues-paying subgenii elect to turn over all their worldly goods and the right of attorney to us, well, who are we to limit their freedom to do so? Young people who get the face of Dobbs tattooed in hidden places, such as their kidneys or lungs, do so without our consent or guidance. We've never been paid to take a fall and look foolish in the eyes of rival cults, although we do have an outstanding invoice to that effect. When our members find slack in their own definition of slack, be it romance, revenge, or even some twisted form such as employment or a lack of social isolation, we had nothing to do with it. The Church of the SubGenius does not have members in every nation, nor do we bend the ear of popes and presidents, nor do we have a hand in Hollywood. The video game industry is not largely under our control. A majority of internet traffic is not directed at subgenius.com, and therefore we can't be blamed for your bandwidth issues. The famous musicians and pro wrestlers and porn stars you like best may say that they're subgeniuses, but we neither confirm nor deny any such claim. Our membership list is available only to our founder, J.R. Bob Dobbs, and only for the purpose of selling it to the men from Planet X. Someone has even advanced the claim that we're a parody of a mail-order mind control cult. Is this funny to you? Is it? Is it? I hear yes and I hear no. Well, you hear this. The Church of the SubGenius is the public face of a race of superior mutants older than humankind itself. The accusations, the slanders, the mockery we endure with a chest-bursting pride. That war you didn't like wasn't caused by us, and the one you did like wasn't ended by us. We have answered every inquiry by federal, state, and local authorities promptly, including those times when the answer was silence. Likewise with our prayer partners, there is not a single documented example of a failed prayer request among our members, providing they prayed really hard and in just the right way. I hope this will satisfy the reporters in the room. Now that I have dispelled all these reservations, let me cast dispel. Ladies and gentlemen, I am a subgenius. I stand before you innocent of life's cares and empowered to take command of any situation I survey. I have perfect health in mind and body, and shall live in this fashion fully as long as I so choose. I owe no money to anyone. I have a secure home and permanent prospects for popularity and prosperity. My family loves me and I them. My friends are flashing bright lights, strong and clever and a blessing to behold. I have the strength of 7 men, 1/7 my age. And how did I come to this mighty stature, you ask? How did I come to this mighty stature, you ask? How did I come to this mighty stature, you ask? Because I am a subgenius. Our founder, J.R. Bob Dobbs, the very man whose face you see printed here on your inner eyelid, was not always the saint of sales. No, before founding our voluntary association of brainwashed freethinkers, Bob was among the elite of the conspiracy. Yeah, the conspiracy of normals, not the normal of, it would feel normal if my friend were here today, or in a normal world, that thing that happened to you would not have happened, or it's not normal how much noise those subgeniuses next door can make. Let me be the first to say, there is a subgenius connoisseurship for that variety of normal. No, I mean the normal that makes normality the norm, where everything not forbidden is compulsory, and even then you have to buy a license not to do the forbidden. I mean the conspiracy of normal in which you're tricked into thinking there could never be a handsome subgenius mate for me, or there could never be a Republican police officer who is also a subgenius. Bob knows all their tricks, and he will sell them to you. He will sell them to you. Me, I'll give you 3 conspiracy tricks for free. First, the conspiracy wants to keep you busy, night and day, making sure other people know what things out of your control you're for and which ones you're against. Second, the conspiracy wants you to think it's all planned out in advance how things are going to go for you. 3 tricks of the conspiracy for free, and all it costs you is the admission ticket. You're welcome. As every one of you full well knows, the world will end at 7 a.m. on July 5th, 1998. The world still being here leaves us with 2 and only 2 possible explanations. It could be that all Earth-based calendars are wrong and that July 5th, 1998 is a date still ahead of us. Perhaps the world ends tomorrow and you will die. And if so, are you going to look back and say, gee, I sure am glad I spent all that time head down in my phone doing unpaid data entry work for Facebook? Or are you going to go down while whooping it in a blaze of glory, which for many of you is a quiet evening laughing with a few friends? It could be we don't know when July 5th, 1998 is to be. We practice for the arrival of the men from Planet X every year, sometimes several times a year just in case. Or it could be that on July 5th, 1998, the X's came to Earth, Bob was there to meet him and sign the paperwork to sell them the Earth, and this planet isn't Earth. It could be that at some point the 3rd and 4th planet from the sun switched places, in part or whole. Bob was there. The saucers were ready to lift us up in glory. But on the 4th planet, quote, Earth, end quote, while we were stuck on the 3rd planet, Mars. We don't know how or why. All we know is that sometime in the late 1940s or early 1950s, Earth and Mars switched places. Logic and evidence dictate that it wasn't a completely successful shift or everyone would know about it. Instead, that's the time period when the flying saucers appear. It's when the mainstream media couldn't provide us with enough Martian invasion films. It's the Cold War, except real. Why would paranoia become cool except as a cover-up for planetary realignment? And the subgenii, we seem to be the most in tune with the Martian experience. We see the same monster movies as everybody else. It's just that sometimes we cheer for the monster. We can tell when a certain patch of land is Martian land. The puzzle isn't explaining to the sycophants and the complainers why Earth and Mars are not as they seem. Our challenge is determining whether we must complete the transition of this green Earth to a red Mars, or whether we should abandon this confused world altogether and reconnoiter on the red planet. For Mars is a planet of war. Mars needs women. Be you Ransom or John Carter, you know in your heart that Mars is the planet of naked adventure, of good versus evil. Mars is our home away from home. We have our operatives at SpaceX. Who doesn't? But we need you, yes, you, to cast your vote dollar and decide once and for all. Will you be the last Martian or the first Earthling? Thank you, Reverend Dr. Uncle Onan Canabite, for that disclaimer rant. And thank you, Cyber Chump, for the background music, which ended beautifully just then, and then kept going. Here, 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 here. That was great. Thank you, Onan Canabite.
I received in my former home of employment where I was working before, I received a threatening email about my disgusting onanism. And many of the people who saw it didn't think it was quite as funny because they didn't know who Onan was or what onanism was. But apparently they had some picture of me, he claimed, of me masturbating to a photo of a person who was underage, a girl who was actually a girl, another woman. And if I did not submit to his will and pay him $1.5 billion in Bitcoin,
I got that same email. I got that same, yes, I got that same spam scam. Yes, I did. Everybody got that letter, Dave. Everybody got that letter, and only the ones that were guilty believed it. I didn't believe it because it's like, no, that's not the kind of pornography that I masturbate to. It's just exactly the opposite, in fact.
I know. I'm a Three Stooges man myself. I didn't think it was that important.
I'm usually looking at, if I'm going to be masturbating for sexual purposes, I'm usually looking at invertebrate photography websites and things. I have special tastes. I'm a subgenius. I mean, human and subgenius gals or whatever are fine, but, then there's your octopus on ecstasy. Or you could save the ecstasy for yourself and just go out with a prairie squid. They don't have to be convinced or wooed. They don't have to be wooed or courted. They're ready to go. They're swingers.
Yep. And you have to worry about their shirt sizes either because they kind of expand and contract as they would.
You can't get a disease from them, but only from the sloppy leftovers that might be
Why'd you
squeezing
have to bring
out
him
the edges. I don't like him shaved. I mean, I like him if you're going to buy one that's dead in the supermarket wrapped in cellophane. Yeah, of course they're going to shave that. But out in nature in the wild, it just doesn't seem right. It seems like they're supposed to be hirsute and funky and giggling and sliming around us. They do with their
right. Might as well come right out and say it when they're explosive is when they're best, when they're tastiest. You can't get them too close to any kind of sunlight, especially in the summertime. It gives above 85 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh, they get pretty rank pretty fast. I remember that one X-Day
and they
drill.
Think they know their own. Yeah.
We had a prairie squid in a cooler in a tent as a kind of an experiment, and there was a handmade sign outside the tent. It said in great big letters, it said, "Prairie squid love, 50 cents, come inside." And even with the cooler, we had to throw the cooler away because it got so nasty in there. But the sad thing is, Dave, at the end of that X-Day, I wanted to collect the money and see how much we'd made. There were 3 quarters. 50 cents, right? 3 quarters. I don't think that other quarter was a tip. Maybe it was, but I'm sure half of them didn't even pay. Well, you know, they just snuck in there, and when they left, they were ready to pay, put money in the little can, but then they thought, oh, nobody's going to know. I'll save that 50 cents for something I really need, like
well, some people have a
ice cream.
hunger for the non-absurd, hunger for things being right and normal and obsequious and formal, and you can't just send people off into a totally different Hemingway variety of, and have them wake up they're fishing off of a boat somewhere.
Well, I've had so many adventures that I've learned that boring is actually really, really good.
Yeah.
Boring is just great compared to exciting, because exciting frequently ends up being a little too exciting.
Yeah, you got to do too much stuff or else,
Yeah, sometimes the excitement wasn't exactly what you signed up for. So, I mean, when I was young, I never would have said this, but now that I'm
permanent nap level,
whatever, still alive anyway, apparently, I kind of appreciate boredom in a way that I never did before.
Yeah, I mean, you can do all kinds of things. You can mumble about the rocks. I've seen these same group of individuals go down to the beach where I live, and they mumble at the rocks as they walk by, like the gravel, stone, things like, as if they were all different, had different personalities. They mumble about bread, and I'm not talking about any kind of, really good bakery bread. I'm talking about the kind they give you out on food stamps. Oh, boy.
Dave, you see some pretty interesting and boring things, both as you wander the lakeside there, don't you? In Ashtabula.
Oh, yeah.
Ohio.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I could, you could technically walk all the way on a certain route, whose name I won't mention. You can walk all the way from Pennsylvania to Cleveland. And I'm not counseling anybody to, take a ride or a walk tonight and everything, but you could do that. You go through all kinds of neighborhoods and villages, many towns and big towns.
Is that the Erie Canal?
No, the Erie Canal stretches to the south, more towards the land of Wisteria and places like that.
Oh, okay.
But there's the canal. There was a vast canal system near Cleveland area, but I forget the name of it. And somebody said that's where the graves where they would put the Irish laborers.
Well, there's the Erie Canal, which is different from the Erie Canal.
Yeah, and it's
the Erie Canal is straight ear, whereas the Erie Canal is just, it's sort of ear, but it's ear-ish. The ear-ish canal, they could have called it.
Yeah, it's a little spooky too, so they call it. It could be a little eerie.
Yeah. Yeah, but if you get an infection in the ear canal, and that you don't want that. You end up like me, having to put on headphones and earmuffs at the same time and crank it all the way up.
Virtual goggles and a helmet and
that's
one
next.
of those lances like Sir Galahad used to wear when he was king.
Hey, Dave, we weren't going to talk about how old we are, so let's cut to something. I know, we'll cut to us when we were young, or somebody who's young, or was young.
Yeah, or something young.
And this shall be until the twins come, that each is only half of the split god, the ex-god, which is Loki, and Niji, which is the Hioka of the gods and the trickster. He is my true son and finger, who while split is insane, and so meddles in the serpent lane, as I hear taste that will soothe me. Don't just eat a hamburger, eat the hell out of it. She is a harlot and a fornicator. A good deal is in the wallet of the beholder. Know ye this, knowledge of her is pagan and of the moon, not of the sun. Extremism is the discord and mind straight order and patriarchy. Through my discipline thine armies can triumph. The harlot will bribe thee with the reins of time, but the harnessing of it is unclean and shall lead to perdition. The divine king will be killed in the plaza by his own clowns. Darkness will fall. The Philistines will reign you. nothing to say over the head. And that's what I want to talk to you about. The voice of the prophet shall be listened from their mouths. Do you even know what you're really thinking? Mark this, by that sign shall ye know them, and they shall command the source of all knowledge, which is like unto a book of the score. That's a lot more relative than I tried everywhere like a vine. They shall receive the sacrament from the angels of life, which preserve the rights in heaven. Preserve the rights in heaven. Preserve the rights in heaven.
Friends, I have a confession to make. I did a dumb thing. There was this annual fossil convention here in the tiny town of Glen Rose, Texas, because this is a very fossiliferous area, and it's famous for dinosaur tracks. So I go to this convention every year. It's one of the biggest events of my year, seriously. I'm a bit of a junior scientist, amateur paleontologist, specializing in Cretaceous marine life fossils, because that's what we have around here. In fact, that's what my driveway's made of. But I'm always on the lookout for the ones I'll never find here. And this last Fossil Mania convention, as they're called, I was pretty good. I learned my lesson from last year, and I went in with a budget of $100. I wasn't going to spend a penny more than that. I photographed everything on display that the vendors had, and then went home and decided what I was going to get, and I stuck to that list, and I spent exactly $99. Then I saw something I couldn't afford. It was too good to be true. It was a complete dinosaur skeleton, or actually a marine reptile skeleton, and embedded in rock. So it's not exactly well, we don't know, but it's only about 4 inches long. There were very small marine reptiles that looked just like a plesiosaurus. They just weren't giant like a plesiosaurus. They were little, like swimming lizards. In fact, the name of this one, scientific name, one of the scientific names is Sinohydrosaurus, which means Chinese water lizard. And it was only $160. Now, to some people that may sound like a lot. To other people, like my advisor, Pease, it's an obvious fake. It's from China. It's a fake. Well, there's reasons why it could be real. There is a formation in China where a lot of these little fossils have shown up, much like the Green River Formation fish fossils that one finds in Wyoming. They're everywhere. There are a dime a dozen, but they're great fossils. They show complete fish skeleton laying there where it died. Must have been a gigantic die-off at that formation. And something similar may have happened with the Sinohydrosauruses, but I slept on it. I went, man, I got to have this thing. The guy vending it said, well, this will be the last time you see something like this because China has outlawed exporting these. And I thought, oh God, I gotta pick up on this. But I did sleep on it, and the next morning I went there and I bought it, and I showed it to several other paleontology buffs and a couple of working actual paleontologists. And they oohed and awed over it, and they looked at it through my little jeweler's magnifying glass, and nobody said, well, I hate to tell you this, man, but it's fake. Of course, the vendor was packing up his stuff right next to us, but so that may have been part of it. I'm pretty sure it's fake, friends. I got it home, like a couple of days later, I pulled out my stereo microscope, which is much more powerful than a hand magnifying glass, but a low-power microscope. Well, the skull and tails tail are painted on. And they've been slightly carved out to give it a bit of a 3D feel, but it's definitely paint. The center of it there might be a real fossil there. There may be a little tiny pelvis, a bit of a spine, maybe even a flipper, but they've been painted over, and all the missing parts have been painted on them. Really certain from looking through the microscope that a guy with exactly that kind of microscope in China was sitting there and whipping out one of these things every hour or so. And he got really good at making them look believable. Whoa! That's the alarm that says we're all going to die if we don't take our pills. I'll have to remember that. Anyway, what all this is about, I'm still displaying the thing. It's not a loss because a replica this good would cost $160, even if it was advertised as such. And it just goes in my hoax fossil collection, which are mostly built by me and my wife, Princess We Are Doe. We have a devil fossil. We have the fossil of an alien skeleton. It's an alien, but it was an alien that died 100 million years ago in the lower Cretaceous. We have a robot fossil of a robot that probably belonged to that alien. And, of course, a whole family of cave subgeniuses. So my realistic-looking fake plesiosaur skeleton can go in there. But praise the subgeniuses. This subgenius named Eddie Romanoff, I'll call him Reverend Eddie Romanoff, because for him to even be on the SubGenius forum means he must have sent me $35 at some point in the past. He has an explanation that I much prefer, and it goes like this. Pull the wool over your own eyes and embrace the alternative truth. Clearly, the foul agents of the conspiracy painted over that fossil to make you think it was a fake, when, in reality, it is actual physical evidence of the first reptiloid phase of our race from the Pennsylvanian era. Excuse me, I have to cough every hour. I've got a cold. You will recall from Standard Film Strip 87, Bob Visits the Dinosaurs, and dinosaurs is in quotes, just like Bob. You'll recall from that the newly engineered reptilian subgenii quickly regretted forsaking their amphibian forms when the political climate of the late Carboniferous suddenly turned against them, and a horde of rampaging mushroom-headed Trumposauri came swarming up from the valleys and laid siege to Fort Sikesny. Our ancestors had no choice but to return to the waters of the Monongahela, a titanic struggle still preserved in the coal seams of the Monongahela Formation. I mean, that is why you picked that particular house in Cleveland, right? Didn't you notice, asks Eddie Romanoff, the other end of the coal seam that the con lit on fire in Centralia, Pennsylvania? Or the tunnel drones faithfully excavating out priceless artifacts like the very one you now hold in your sweaty hands? Yes, what the con tried to take from us by amateurish defacement of our cultural heritage has been reclaimed. Surely this is a sign that our mighty reptiloid brethren still live in their deep underground bunkers, in spite of the secret war that rages even as we speak in the Marcellus Shale. They may take our ancient fart gas to power their foolish society as it limps along on ever more scarce fossil fuels. They may even flood our bunkers with their toxic spew, but they will never take our freedom. Praise Bob! Hail Slack! Our kind shall triumph! Tune in next time when we'll talk about the second reptiloid phase and the legendary natural stone standing bong of Huntingdon County. And I had to respond. I said, that's it. I'm weeping with joy. This is the spiel I will adapt to go with the display of the excellent fake fossil in my Destructionist Evidences Museum and Sanitarium. That killer rant explains everything. I think I even have some samples of the fart glass. They strangely resemble beer bottles half melted in brush fires and burning piles of unwanted cedars. But, like the Atlantean artifacts that dot this place, if you really examine them closely, the evidence is unquestionable. Then I went on to continue. So, say, Eddie, did you know, this is Eddie Romanoff I'm talking to, did you know that my real name is Romanoff too? Not Stang or Smith, but, well, technically Rasputin Romanoff. I don't have the blood of the Tsar coursing through my veins, but my great-grandma, the Tsarina, is sure in there, as well as the genes of a certain bug-eyed, long-haired mad monk who couldn't be fully killed unless you killed him 5 times. Of course, my side of the family had to be banished and brainwashed and disguised and sent to the colonies, but they did pretty well there, and one of them signed the Declaration of Independence under a patently funny assumed name. No, I don't want to say that name because it's also my brother's name, and he's sensitive about being made fun of for it. But yeah, we're the actual rightful heirs to the crown jewels of all the Russians. Me and my brother and sister. But damn the Bolsheviks, they screwed up everything. Everything was going great, but then they went and messed it all up. I hate commies. Well, I have some respect for the Viet Cong, smart warriors, but the rest of the commies, I don't want to say it in front of women and children. Socialism, sure, I'm probably a socialist, but screw the commies and the Nazis and white supremacists and anti-Semites and rapers. Screw all that crap. Sorry, I get worked up. So, yeah, it turns out my adopted child's Sinohydrosaurus skeleton is probably just a good miniature painting by some hunched-over, nearsighted, cigarette-addicted, talented Chinese with a low-power microscope and a 3-hair paintbrush who probably got $3 for his work, if that. God, what planet have we found ourselves on? Friends, this is all wrong. But hey, we can find humor in it because we're sick. And now this.
Has this ever happened to you? Why, I should have been there, Ted. It was great. There was free booze, great music, one of the best parties I ever went to. Where were you that night?
Oh, I just kind of stayed home and watched TV. I guess I should have gone, huh?
Didn't you feel stupid? Didn't you wish you could go back to that night, that party? Well, maybe now there's a way to learn how to do that very thing. Introducing Bob's School of Time Control. At Bob's, you'll learn how to speed time, slow time, and make time run backwards. But most importantly, you'll be learning how to make time work for you. How, you may ask? Well, just ask this man here, an actual graduate of Bob's School of Time Control.
One day, my dog ran out in front of a truck. Blango. My dog was dead. Was I sad? Till I met Bob. Bob showed me how I could go back, get the registration number for the car, do a slip job on the brakes, and wouldn't you know it, that truck went off into a ditch and burst into flames just exactly a block before he could hit old Booger. Ain't that right, fella?
Yes, just imagine the horrible things that could be undone tomorrow if you had only gone to Bob's School of Time Control today. Courses start yesterday, but you can catch up. Just right, Bob's School of Time Control, the universe.
Bob's School of Time Control, a division of SubGenius Industries Unlimited.
Friends, I read here in the weekly news called The Week that there's a new ice world that raises Planet 9 hopes. Yes, astronomers have discovered a dwarf planet at the very outer reaches of our solar system, a find that may point the way to a long hypothesized 9th large planet, lurking somewhere far beyond Pluto. Nicknamed the Goblin, the roughly 200-mile wide dwarf planet follows an extremely elongated orbit. Right now, the ice world is as close as it gets to the sun, some 7.4 billion miles away, and about 2.5 times farther than Pluto. At the most distant end of its 40,000-year orbit, the Goblin will be more than 200 billion miles from the sun. Because the Goblin is beyond the gravitational pull of the solar system's giants, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, the scientists believe that something else must have shaped its unusual orbit. This is where the elusive Planet 9 comes in. I'd rather call it Planet 10 or Planet X, using the Roman form. The Goblin is the third small planet of its kind to have been discovered in the outer solar system, and the orbits of all three appear to be clustered together. That suggests the distant worlds are being shepherded by a massive undiscovered object, possibly our solar system's 9th large planet. Astronomer Scott Shepard says the Goblin's discovery isn't a slam dunk for Planet 9 believers, but it makes the mysterious planet's existence look more likely than not. And something else that was discovered to have been in existence and still are is a lot more Mayan structures than than most people ever dreamed were there. Archaeologists have uncovered tens of thousands of ancient Mayan structures in Guatemala using a groundbreaking new laser mapping technology. The researchers flew over 830 square miles of dense forest in a plane equipped with a LiDAR device, which rained millions of light pulses on the canopy to reveal the contours of the ground beneath. The survey revealed an astonishing, and this is astonishing, 61,480 Mayan structures, many of them never seen before. There were large houses and temples, 60 miles of causeways, roads, and canals, even defensive fortifications such as moats, which suggest the Maya came under attack from other Central American peoples. The discoveries provide a unique snapshot of the Maya, who lived in the region from about 1000 BC to 1500 AD, and should help scientists understand more about their population size, agricultural techniques, and conflicts. After analyzing the scans, the researchers explored the jungle at ground level to verify some of their findings. We were all humbled, lead author Marcelo Canuto tells the Post. All of us saw things we had walked over and we realized, oh wow, we totally missed that. So there you go, friends. Hidden planets and hidden cities of the ancient astronauts, or basically a really advanced civilization that predated everybody else.
I like SubGenius. No, sir. I don't like Pink Boys. Yes, sir. I love Bob. No, sir. No, sir. I do not want to stop Bob.
I want Bob in every
tree. I just want to give my feast to the thousands.
In every bee, in every leaf, in every twig, in
yes,
every cow,
deep fried
in
as
every
it is.
pig. I want
they brought
Bob
out
deep
the best
fried
in Bob's
and deep
fish
freezed.
and laid it upon the other water and fowl and little stinky things.
I want to see him
and everybody
in the sky.
saw, and
I
everybody
hope his
ate,
pipe
and it was
catch
kind of
my
nice
eye.
for all
Dear
those people.
Bob, who floats above the ground, I long to hear the mournful sound that's made when you emerge from space and come to this, my dwelling place. Dear Bob, each night, while I'm asleep, I hope to my house you will creep and poke your pipe in through the wall, so I'll be burned, remembering all. Dear Bob, it's time to close my eyes. Remember now, it's no surprise if I should be found dead someday. I'll think that you were in the way.
Oh, gimme Bob, confusing that face with my own. Can't remember my place.
And that's it.
Did we get an hour?
Oh, it's an hour and 20 minutes. And my whole plan was to do an hour and then do 2 shows that had a half hour of us being old and a half hour of youngsters being young, or us being young from the day. So there's plenty there. There's enough for 3 shows.
You all sound like we're on helium.
Huh?
In the old recordings, you all sound like we're on helium.
Yeah. Well, sometimes that's the fault of the cassette players, which weren't exactly crystal sync. And half of them were wind-up, powered by rubber bands. So they didn't keep perfect sync. But, the squeaky voices, and it's us when we were little babies of a mere 45 or 50. Children, innocence, with our pants down, caught that way every time. Deer in the headlights, caught with their pants down. That's us. Yeah, there's that cough again. Oh, it was productive that time. Jeez. That's good. That means it's starting to go away. Because it was just a horrible, painful bark. It came on every half hour. I wasn't sleeping well. I had my expectorants and things, and my suppressants. I don't know. Maybe you shouldn't take both at once, but I took the red pill and the blue pill, and next thing I knew, I was stuck in the bathroom for days. So careful, kids. Don't eat your dog's medicals.
Well, on that sour note.
Yeah. The music in the background has actually been perfect. Brian Henke again, from an album called The Nature of Light. A Cleveland guitar player. That's all he does, play guitar. He plays it real, real good, like Leo Kottke, sort of. Or John Fahey.
I even went to a Kottke concert when I was a guitar aficionado.
Okay, Dave, let's go sleepy bye.
Okay.
Man, this little digital recorder's going to be real glad to be turned off. It's sweating.
Okay. Well, let me know what's happening.
Okay, man.
Amen.
See ya. Okay, now we can talk about the really important stuff that we can't talk about on the air on broadcast radio, because the Hour of Slack is almost always played on college and public supported stations that are non-commercial. That means we can't be commercial, but on the internet we can do anything, and we can tell
as crass as possible, as available.
We can. This is this is our one chance to let you know that we know that you're tired of that old begging recording that I stuck at the end of all those shows, and this is the new one. And we're not even begging. We're just selling you the ordainment kit, the SubGenius Ministers Kit, or membership kit. It's $35 plus $3.75 postage, I think, unless you're overseas, in which case it's like $150 postage. But you'll see when you get on subgenius.com. Right at the top, it says "Become an Ordained Minister." You click on that, and you'll see a picture of all the cool stuff. The package that you get, aside from the fact that you're now a damn minister, okay? You can perform weddings. In fact, I did one tonight. I signed the papers for my niece Jessica and that lucky sumbitch Guillermo, and I did it for them for free because they're relatives. And he's my nephew-in-law now.
That's
but
right.
anyway, friends, you can do that too. You can perform weddings, and I usually get about $200 from civilians. You can do burials. Unfortunately, you can't do divorces, and that's where the real money is. But for your $35, you will get inside a large, puffy envelope, you'll get a black folder that has, for one thing, your SubGenius minister's card that says you're an ordained minister, but also all the kind of things you'd expect from a fan club, such as a decoder ring that only we can decode. You won't be able to do it. It looks like a little
Not
metal
yourself.
button with
no,
Bob
you will
on
need
it.
some assistance, or actually divine intervention.
You get eternal salvation.
Or triple your money back.
Right, of course.
Or, yeah.
Two really, really fancy-looking documents, the All-Inclusive Excuse and the Doctorate of the Forbidden Sciences, which both look fantastic framed on your law office wall. Hint, hint, all those lawyers out there who haven't joined yet. But the main thing about membership is the feeling you get that you finally really did support the Hour of Slack and the SubGenius Facebook pages and all the other stuff that's free. And you helped Reverend Stang pay his half of the mortgage. So, and allows us to keep doing this and so forth. So friends, send that $35. Actually, make it 40 with postage. Or $38.75. Okay, $38.75. You can write a check to SubGenius Foundation. You can do it online and use a credit card. You can technically call us and give us a credit card number, but we hate doing that because, oh wait, I'm not deaf anymore. I guess I could take those calls.
Yes, you can
anyway,
take those now.
Friends, really, $35. And you get to ride
box, both in Ohio and in California and in Texas. Don't forget that, Reverend Oval Staines.
Right, that's Post Office Box. And during the winter months, it's SubGenius at Post Office Box 807, Glen Rose, Texas 76043. During the summer and fallish, springish sort of months, it's SubGenius at P.O. Box 181417, Cleveland Heights, Ohio 44118. Oh, whew, I remembered it. That's. Don't be a gimme Bob, friends. Don't
be
be
a bomby guinea.
Don't. I mean, it's really not cool to not send in your $35. It's the one-time thing, and from then on, I'll speak to you. That's about the only way that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Also, you'll get to look at the members-only internet forum called SubGenius, and believe it or not, there's some really intelligent writing on that thing. It's nothing like Facebook. So, and the reason is because I can kick out anyone I want. And I've never kicked anyone out because Susie the Floozy always does it instead. Reverend Susie the Floozy's on SubGenius, friends, and that's the only way you can be Reverend Susie the Floozy's friend. And I know you want to be friends with Reverend Susie the Floozy. With a name like that, she must be purty and sexy and just ready to jump in bed with anybody. Well, some of those things are true. She is really purty and sexy, and she's really, really funny. And friends, that's why you must join the Church of the SubGenius. Get Slack, the real thing.
Yeah, exactly. How invaluable of a trick-or-treat bag is this when you think of all the things you've gone through in your subservient lives out there, waiting from one day to the next for something to change or happen. This will actually change your life, friends. I don't mean to call you friend speciously because I'm not in that form of mood. I'm a nice person. I could just as easily say something very vicarious and argumentative about you, but I don't know you. And that's the problem. So to solve that problem, vote for the Church of the SubGenius by becoming a preordained ministry. Because menstruation is a very important part of our existence. If we didn't have it, we wouldn't have it.
Praise Bob. And with that, friends, thank you and good night. Okay, but we're still on the phone, Dave.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Buenas.
Are we done?
Well, we're done. I'm afraid. Okay, I'm going to actually turn the recorder off, and that means we really are done.
See? Oh, yes, manifest occultation of a thought form. Yes. Yeah. They have a hypnotization thing to manifest.
Oh, to be sure. And strange. That's interesting because, that's really interesting.
Yes. Give them false pride, false ego, false negativity, false power, false ego, and then you destroy them.
So it wouldn't matter what they would endeavor to do, it would go all wrong.
Yes.
The SubGenius Power Select.
And if they personally are not, they have in their employ those who are.
From PR News in Washington, I'm placed on administrative leave by sex priests after a Supreme pro-sex leader was killed in an apparent sex blast yesterday. But Israel is praising the move. The Kremlin says to end PR News in Washington.
Oh, dear God. You see, my name's Billy, and I just won King of the Ring, but there's one problem. Everybody still thinks that I absolutely suck. And then at that point, Billy, your house started to shake, the heavens opened up, and God himself spoke to you and said this, Bob, but my name's Billy. It doesn't matter what your name is.
Yes. And our background music for the credits here will be Cyber Chump from their CD, Their Moment of Perfect Happiness. And, yes, this is the Hour of Slack once again. And we're going to be hearing rants from different people and new music from things or people. Let's start with Onan Canobite, Dr. Father Uncle Onan Canobite, who in some ways is kind of like my co-speechwriter. I use his stuff. I was about to say I use him, but I don't like to think of it that way. Or we use each other. Anyway, here is Onan Canobite, and this is happening.
She asked if I had anything further to say, and now, a few years later, the answer is yes. This is happening right now. The Church of the SubGenius, as orchestrated by the SubGenius Foundation and visible at subgenius.com, is an ongoing concern. There was a good party going on in 1915 at the Cabaret Voltaire in Zurich, but you didn't go. The fun moved to Paris in 1920, and you dilly-dallied around until it was over. Paris hosted a fine situation in 1957, but you let it drift away. You could have stayed right where you are now and had an experience with the hippies in the 60s, but you sat it out, just like you sat out the punks of the 1970s. Tell yourself you weren't born yet or were just an infant, if that makes you feel better. The point is, this is happening right now. The Church of the SubGenius, as orchestrated by the SubGenius Foundation and visible at subgenius.com, is an ongoing concern, and by consternation, you had best not be the last mutant on the bust. The Church of the SubGenius is something that you can take or leave a DNA sample of. Some invisible monster that lives in the sky saw fit to give you a unique thumbprint, and now you have a BlackBerry Pi you can stick it in. You can go to a SubGenius event. You can put one on yourself. You can meet or avoid every SubGenius walking this planet. You might come up with the next good joke that you hear some other SubGenius tell you back someday. Or you might be a frog watcher off to the side, but a frog watcher that showed up nonetheless. When you see the saucers leave this planet, and that one SubGenius you were too shy to talk to or punch in the snout has their face mashed up against the window and is giving you the bird, will you be saying, "Gosh, I blew it again"? Or will you be that SubGenius? Why not both?
Oh, yes, my friends. This has been one long month, or 4. Yeah, we missed a show last week. The broadcast stations will get them normally, but the internet listeners didn't get last week's fix. So I'm whipping out 2 right now, right this very second, to catch up. This one's number 1699. And next we round the corner for show number 1700. Nice round number. Bob granted us slack, so that's all okay as far as the hour of slack schedule goes. My own schedule has been messed up. Not nearly as messed up as some of my friends and families. Schedules. Theirs just got simply terminated. People keep dying or getting real sick and threatening to die. SubGeniuses dying. Think of that. Boarding the escape saucers of the exorcists way before the rest of us. It's not fair, but as my little sister says a lot, fair's where you take your pig and hope to win a prize. Speaking of which, my incarcerated sister unexpectedly got some good news. She was offered a plea by the DA and took it, and long story short, we'll have her back from state prison after only about 2 years. That was actually the best we had dared to hope for. The Texas justice system was actually both smart and merciful in this case. For you see, my sister's daughter, my late niece Claire, was dying of a truly horrible disease called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And no, you haven't heard of it, that's correct. It's pretty rare, and sometimes all it does is make people hypermobile. That is, extremely limber and double-jointed. Other times, what it does is cause all the connective tissue in your body to slowly just sort of dissolve. That includes your skin, your joints, the membranes that hold your guts in place, the stuff that keeps your arms and legs in their sockets, and your ribs from coming loose and poking holes in your organs. My niece had all of that. She was literally falling apart. Just rolling over in bed wrong could send her to the emergency room. She was also in non-stop pain, from merely very painful to unthinkably painful. There is no cure. She was only 27 years old and could no longer drive or even walk very far, and she just wanted to die. I mean, she really wanted to die, but she was scared of doing it wrong, and she didn't want to know when it was coming. So my sister essentially sacrificed herself to make her daughter's wish come true. And yes, friends, I know that there are states like the ones on the far west coast where the health system actually helps you. If I'd known then what I know now, I would have cashed in my savings a year ago and said, here, move to Washington State where you won't be penalized for being ill and poor. She could have gotten life in prison. Instead, the state took the trouble of looking into what went down and mercifully gave her the minimum sentence for ending her daughter's pain. Since early July, I've been visiting my sister in the local jail every visitation period, 3 times a week. Soon, she'll be transferred to state prison, and I'll be able to pick up where I left off, which was trying to finish emptying and fixing up our old house in Cleveland so we can sell it and stop going deeper and deeper and deeper into debt. And the dogs and I will finally be reunited with my wife, Princess Wee, and our mom, Wee Mama, who both had to stay in Ohio while I went back to Texas. So, yeah. Yeah, that's right. This is the show called The Hour Slack, and I guess this hasn't been all that slack-inducing so far. It gets worse. 1 month ago today, on October 12th, our very good friend in Ohio, Reverend Heathen, human street name David Lair, suddenly died in his sleep of obstructive pulmonary disease. That one was a shock. He knew he was sick, but the doctors thought he'd be getting better. Once again, he was one of the nicest, sanest, smartest, and in fact, strongest guys any of us knew. For instance, he fed everybody at the last dozen or so X-Day drills, just as a for instance. Not counting all the repairs he did to the homes of non-handy subgeniuses like me. He was part of the small gang of old Cleveland area subgeniuses that used to meet every week or so for dinner or movies or the Greek Festival or X-Day, along with Mr. Sister and Son and the Nostrils and Her Highness Hellno and Dr. Dark. Well, Dr. Dark boarded the saucers a few months earlier after a long fight with just about every kind of cancer. And we did a show about him. In between those 2 deaths, Reverend Ann Atrocity died in a horrible accident, murdered by arson by a schizophrenic loved one. And that was a case where the mental health system ignored all the warnings she tried to give him until the worst happened. So thanks, Ronald Reagan administration, for gutting the loony bins back in the 80s and keeping the sick out on the street. And everybody since then who's been beating back social services so that big companies can make bigger money. Welcome to modern, advanced, futuristic America. And I spent last week in Seattle visiting my old pal, Dr. Legume. Now, if anybody can beat cancer of the stomach and spine, it's him. But it's possible that nobody can. He's still grinning and making the sickest jokes through the unimaginable pain. But those grins are not normal grins. They're savage-looking grins that keep him from screaming, I guess. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have lasted anywhere near this long. It's true that in 1995, due to some serious conclusion jumping, everybody thought Legume had died in a highway accident back then. And there was even a wake in Cleveland for him, at which I got to say, if there really was a Bob, Legume would still be alive, which was his cue to emerge from a closet, lift me off the floor by my lapels, and bellow, next time, you better poke me with a stick before you decide I'm dead. So, some people have been sheepishly asking me if this isn't just another sick hoax. it ain't. So friends, next time you get a chance to tell a friend or loved one that you love them, go ahead and do so. It might be the last chance. As Lonesome Cowboy Dave's friend, Psycho Pathfinder, put it, maybe we should treat our friends more like they're already dead. So, friend, if you're the kind of Hour of Slack listener that's a friend of mine, I love you, man, or woman, or whatever. Thanks for all the slack you've given me. So, okay, the morose part is done. SubGenius has been sending in lots of cool music and collages and doing their own podcasts, and that SubGenius documentary movie did in fact get finished and is in fact being entered in film festivals, and everything I've heard that I'm not supposed to know yet tells me that it's really good and that we'll be glad it's out there. And Lonesome Cowboy Dave will be calling in soon. Oh, and friends, if my voice sounds all cracky and hoarse, it's not because I'm dying. I just have a cold with a nagging cough. And the cough is what's got me sounding cracky. So, let there be Slacky.
I'm looking up again.
Wearing his
thing called love. I'm not quite sure as to what is going down. And it feels so good.
You are risking your life. It was only later that I knew he'd murdered almost 1 million people.
Know what I'm saying? Show enough. Yo, it's a wonderful world, and yeah, I'm living.
What can I say? I'm a liberated male. I may have something for you.
What is going on here?
I'm on my grind, baby, because I want the life, the golden child. I want the knife.
And I think that that's the part of the song that really tells all.
I just might stop to run away from the pain. Come on out and dance right now.
Hey, excuse me. Which do you think would be the more exciting, the more sadomasochistic?
Look, I know it is a strange request, but I need to get up that mountain to the equipment. There's valuable information up there.
With all due respect, sir, Dr. Oscar Valian is the leading authority on
the stuff that stops your heart.
I think you got Tourette's. Hey, yo, we stay honest. Won't make a fake promise. Pay homage to truth and never straight from it. I'm inside my lab, stabbing rounds with black hole pirates.
I'm trying to chill, though, even though situation looking kind of ill, yo. It came to me like a song I wrote.
I'm very susceptible to peer pressure.
Right. We've been getting collages from a person named Silas Jansen, I think. And sometimes I rearrange them a little bit, sometimes I shorten them, and sometimes I don't do anything. But we also got a song from, this is a new contributor, Slim Reaper. Slim Reaper, doing a hip-hop or rap type style with this song called Pusher.
You've been so good today that now we're going to watch a cartoon.
I'll be your guide on this trip through reality. And on this trip, I can make you see anything I want you to see. I am your always until the movie ends. Right now, we're looking in a mirror. Now watch this. See what I can do? And how about this? I can show you everything. You have no choice. You may even see things you can't stand to see. Or I may show you lies which you will call truth. So remember, this is not your story. And you aren't in it. I am throwing it to you.
Hit the mic. like it's stress weed. I spit the spite, don't test me. Impress fiends when I bust out the next thing. Goal is to roll, finger shift like I'm texting. Linger and lift, chug another fifth. Fallen cannabis abyss, what bliss. No more indifference if you hit this. Makes me miss ignorance, reminisce on tolerance. But true relief is to holler riffs. Little sis said flow, tired of this. Still I blow, hot as shit. Exhale rap to keep my lungs slick. Like whoa, that pale chap just sung Rick. I'm like laddie daddy, here to fuck up the party. Armed with Bacardi, they didn't even card me. Broken, empty, but smartly shard free. Don't let me start heat, cause it darts to the heart when I spark a beat. I'm the pusher turned shover, homie shout truth that. Kick a freestyle, did you know we could do that? Bitch, I bring